I call this meeting of the Pittsburgh City Commission, June 8th, 2021 to order. Will you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please join me in a moment of silence for Mike Simonis? He was a retired captain with Pittsburgh Fire Department. Mike died in a car accident last Friday. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I open the meeting to public input. I see Father Jerome is here. Would you please come and say a prayer for us?
Thank you. Because our faith is quite often challenged to live with light in the midst of darkness and to counteract hatred and discord with love. In many ways, the power of Christ and the power of our faith allows us to have strength when we consider this and many other paradoxes. And so I thought I'd read and pray a prayer that's a favorite of many from 800 years ago, St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in public input? Seeing none, I close this portion of the meeting to public input and move to consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that would be removed for discussion?
That's for me.
All right. I'm going to read them off. Item A, approval of May 25th, 2021 City Commission meeting minutes. Approval of the appropriation ordinance for the period ending June 8th, 2021, subject to the release of HUD expenditures when funds are received. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in, roll call vote.
Brooks?
Yes.
Fields?
Yes.
McNay?
Yes.
Munsell?
Yes. Motion carries. Now moving to a special presentation. 5-year financial forecast. Finance Director Larissa Bowman and Deputy Finance Director Joe Wimmer will provide information regarding the city's 5-year financial forecast.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. A few weeks ago, Joe and I presented the 5-year financial plan on working day, and tonight we would like to review that plan and ask for your formal approval. So I wanted to start off with why we create a 5-year financial plan. It's very beneficial to the city as it allows us to assess our goals and our priorities. We can look at financial trends and develop strategies, and we can also plan for our future projects. The city recently just went through a bond rating, and all those things that I just mentioned help our bond rating also. So as we forecast the future, the city uses the priorities and the input from the community, from the Imagine Pittsburgh plan. And we use that as our strategic guide, and we use the focus on the 6 areas of housing, economic development, public wellness, infrastructure, education, and communication. So we feel that the financial impact of COVID-19 is behind us. So as we built this, we saw that our community was very resilient in the past year in supporting our local economy. So during these uncertain times, the city was able to add to our fund reserves. So the estimates in this plan tonight forecast revenue to return to pre-pandemic levels.
So to summarize our revenue, starting on page 5, in 2020 we received a total of $35.3 million in revenues. There are three major revenue sources for the city, those being property tax, sales tax, and then charges for our utility services. So we'll take a look at the forecast for those three, starting with property tax. If we look at the assessed valuation, it's forecasted to have a very minimal growth for the next 5 years. The other portion of property tax is the mill rate. Our total mill rate for the citizens of Pittsburgh is 156.783 mills. Approximately one-third of that going to the city, one-third going to USD 250, and then one-third going to the county. The city's portion of that goes to three funds: general fund, debt service, and then it also funds the library. So we'll look at an example of property tax generated by a property in Pittsburgh. We've got a pie chart of a $100,000 appraised residential property. For residential property, 1 mil will generate $11.50. You can see 592 going to the city there. Whereas if we look at a commercial property with the same appraisal, it generates $25 per mil. There we'll see 1,200 going to the city.
Another piece is the sales tax that accounts for 27% of our collections for revenues. The overall sales tax rate in the city, is 9%, with the city's portion being 1.5. We have dedicated 5 programs that are earmarked for the sales tax. That's public safety, street maintenance, economic development, capital outlay, and Memorial Auditorium. In 2020, you'll see that the voters passed combining the street maintenance and extending it for another 10 years. We do have the public safety sales tax. In the red, you can see that it does sunset on December 31st of 2023. So we ended the 2020 with sales tax up 3.14% from the prior year. So for our plan for a 5-year, we are projecting a 2% increase annually.
Jumping over to utilities, go to page 16. Our public utility has about 8,500 residential and commercial customers. This is a graph of water consumption, which has been historically flat, and we forecast that to remain flat. Whereas if we look at revenues for our utilities, on the next page, there was no rate increase in 2020 or 2019 for stormwater or our water and wastewater utility. Staff's recommending a 1% increase for the stormwater utility and then a 3% for the water and wastewater utility to keep up with operational costs and then also fund the wastewater treatment plant project. So now on to expenditures. 2020 actual numbers, the city ended at $32.7 million in expenditures. This is a pie chart of our expenditure categories where you can see personnel services makes up the major piece of that at 45%. We are a service-based, personnel-based organization. The chart moves down to contractual services at 22%, capital outlay at 13%, debt service at 11%, and then commodities at 9%.
Another way, a useful way of looking at our expenditures is by program. This graph shows the breakdown by program, and you can see that almost 70% of our expenditures comprise of public safety, public utilities, capital outlay, and debt service. As for the city's health plan, it is self-funded, which claims are paid as they are incurred rather than paying a premium. So any balance that is unused stays in the fund to help offset future costs. This graph shows that our expenses are in red, and revenues in green, and reserves in blue. So in 2015, you can see a change. The city made a decision to carve out our health plan. And this has paid off as we've been able to build up our reserves over the years. In 2015, when that change was made, our reserves had $168,000 in it, and at the end of 2020, we had $1.4 million. And I also wanted to note that there have been no raises in premiums for our employees in the past 6 years due to that change. So I'll move on to debt. So the city's outstanding debt at the beginning of 2020 was at 30.1 million. And this mainly comprises of our GO bonds and a special assessment bond that we have for the casino. Kansas statute requires our GO bond debt to be at least 30% of our assessed valuation. Therefore, in this graph, the black line shows where our level would be at the 46.1 million. And the red shows where we actually are, and we're at 12.7 million. So you can see that we're very far from the legal limit. This is our waterfall graph that kind of shows a cumulative picture of all of our debt and how when it falls off. So I did want to mention that this graph does exclude the special assessment that's being repaid by the casino.
As for the city's reserves, we were able to contribute and increase our reserves in 2020 and forecast to remain consistent at that level through 2023, in which reserves would fall if the half-cent public safety sales tax were to expire. If we look at our reserves against our targets with the general fund, the next chart, that black line is our target reserve level, which is 16% of our annual operating expenses, which comes out to about 2 months of annual operating expenses. You can see for the general fund, we meet that target and we project to. Again, we would see a dip if the public safety sales tax were to expire at the end of 2023. And then the other large fund, the public utility fund, meeting our target at a healthy level, which puts us in the position to help fund the wastewater treatment plant project with those reserves.
Okay, so as we saw in 2020, the pandemic brought a lot of uncertainty. The city feels like we've weathered that storm and we continue to see growth in our community. So based upon our projections and revenues and expenditures using the historical data, the financial plan was prepared with the following assumptions. We have sales tax revenue with a 2% growth using the prior year's level, assessed valuation projected to be flat for 2021, and then a 0.25% growth from 2023 on. Gaming revenues returning to that pre-pandemic level of $355,000 annually. Utility rate increase of 3%, and then annually for years 2023 to 2025. And that's to offset the debt for the expense of the new wastewater treatment plant. Retirement for capers and KP&F at an increase of 0.25%. Workers' comp, 3% increase annually. Utilities, a 3% annual increase. Property and liability insurance at a 3% increase. And our contractual commodities at a 2%. And then our considerations, we adjust our revenues based upon historical and current trends, monitor and control those expenditures, maintain a structurally balanced budget, and maintain our reserve levels. Continue to practice the long-term planning, make decisions based off of that data, and provide programs and services on the Imagine Pittsburgh plan. So our recommendations is a 1% cost of living for employees in 2022 and a 1% cost of living in years 2023 to 2025, with a 2% merit in the years of 23 and 2025. And minimal changes to our debt service fund, and increase the utility rates by 3% annually and the stormwater rates by 1% annually. So, and that is the 5-year plan. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can answer them or not, but on first page, what our Imagine Pittsburgh 2030 plan is, it lists things, and I go down to market to targeted industries. What, can you answer that? What are target industries are out there?
Basically, our targeted industries, how many years has it been, Blake? We had a target industry analysis done 4 years ago by, can you please give me the name of the? Yeah, Angelou. If you recall, they presented back their findings that they identified, kind of the usual suspects, custom manufacturing, things like that, where we need to make sure that we cluster businesses around that. So any business that supports custom manufacturing is something that we should be inclined to try to incentivize or get to Pittsburgh. So it's a really big, thick report. I'm sure nobody remembers it. We review it from time to time, but that's really the driver of those decisions is where we're going to spend our effort.
That leads me to my next question. Maybe you can answer, Blake. I know, we had a great growth even with pandemic. Our businesses all grew. Most of them did well. But the main thing there, I hear all the time, they need employees.
Yes,
And this says migrate, local skill shortages, workforce development. What are we doing? I mean, is there something more that we can do for our businesses? Not only trying to attract businesses in town and the workforce, do we have a workforce with the business we have that,
Well, it's a complex question and obviously no simple answer. We're constantly doing things like Commissioner McNay and I both sit on the board of CTEC
Right.
and making sure what we want to constantly do is make sure that our education providers are aware of where the skill shortages are so that they can properly train the employees for the jobs that are available now and will be coming available in the future. So again, it's a multifaceted issue. A lot of communities are facing it, but that's just one example of how we're addressing it here locally.
right?
And also working with entities like Kansas Works as well.
I got another question, but for you, but I'll ask at the end of the meeting, so.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
You have it back?
I have a question. And especially on the healthcare reserves, I know that, are those encumbered only for healthcare if our reserves get to the point where we predict that they would exceed potential expenditures? Can you move that money around, or is it encumbered with our healthcare plan?
It's all city's money. It's not, there's no earmark like that.
Okay.
The best way to think about it is, there's a reason we were down to 124,000 when we changed, because it usually just happens. You never know, but when you get one or two bad claims, you can wipe out $1.5 million or $2 million of reserve. So, if there was an emergency, I definitely think that we would be able to sweep most of the funds that we have for something catastrophic that would happen, and those wouldn't be any different. It's similar to the public safety reserves. That's reserves that are in the general fund, but they're earmarked to that public safety sales tax. But if we ever got to the point where we were like desperate and we had to do something, we would be able to go into those.
I'm not advocating for that, it was just a question.
Are there any further questions?
Larissa, I have a question for you. It's not so much of a question, but a lot of people that are watching, especially watching at home, they don't know what a GO bond is. Why don't you just tell us what a GO bond is and what the GO bonds are mostly used for? Because they don't know.
Okay, the GO bonds are bonds that we can go out and get.
And it stands for,
General obligation
Okay,
bond,
there you
yeah. Just kind of like we went out for a TIP GO bond just
Yeah.
recently. So we can do projects for those. That's kind of,
And primarily, how do we use them?
it just depends on different projects that we have within the city.
So for example.
For like the one we're gonna just do with the East Quincy project.
Right.
Yeah, street project.
And so basically, the general obligation refers to, we are, as a commission, making the decision that whatever happens, we are gonna use property tax, sales tax, whatever we have, and that's for those reserves, anything that we have to make good on those bonds. And that lets those bondholders that buy them understand that that's a very high commitment, it's very low risk, and it makes those bonds very secure in the marketplace. So we have the ability to sell them when we need to.
and that's what I wanted people to hear. Because they really don't know what that was, a lot of people. And in your considerations, going to maintain a minimum reserve level if, it says minimum, if revenues are up, can that number move up?
Yeah, well, the reserve is 16% off based off our expenditures.
And if revenues were really good and got better, would that, I guess it could be moved? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think you have to balance this with the concept of, we didn't have minimum reserves I don't know, 7 years ago. And so if you look at that graph, we've done so well for so long, the graph actually now looks like we're way above the line. The reality is, we were coming up from basically being below the line. Larissa's racing to talk slow. You see where that green starts to go upward. So that was when we were at the minimum. Right now, we are at the industry minimum. The good thing to point out is that's the industry's minimum. That's not necessarily our minimum. Our minimum is what you guys think as a sitting council. And for us, if you look to the blue one, the next one is the utility funds. You can see, when I look at that, I think, holy, that's a huge amount of reserves, but we also have a $40 million, $50 million wastewater treatment plant. So when that thing kicks into construction in 2023, that blue is going to go clear down to that dot, and they're going to be back on that line. So that's kind of the fluctuation that you see in those reserves. But we always want to keep an eye on it because, yeah, the last thing you want to do is build some ridiculous reserve amount when it's property taxes and sales tax that are putting the money in there. Great point.
Krista, you mentioned that our bond rating was adjusted. Could you walk us through that?
Yes, so just a couple months ago, we sat down with Standard & Poor, which is our bond rating company, since we were going to go out and renew that temp note. And our bond stayed at a AA minus, and that's just because of our financial, because we put a 5-year plan together, we put a capital improvement plan, they look at our economy, those kind of factors play into that rating.
Thank you.
And that helped us get our 0.24% on that bond. So.
And that reserve graph is a good part of that decision. They like to see healthy reserves.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't.
Is this an
Thank
action item?
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
okay. I move to approve the 5-year plan.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Larissa.
And we will put that on the city website tomorrow. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Good job, you guys.
Before we get into consider the following, I've got to ask a question. There was one other person that wanted to speak in public input, so is it possible that we wait till the end of the meeting and allow that person to speak?
We just moved too fast? Is that what we did?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. That's fine with me.
All right, thanks. Consider the following. Final plat, E and J Investments, consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals to approve the final plat submitted by E and G Investments of Pittsburgh, Kansas, for the property located on the north side of the 1900 block of East Centennial, Wellington Springs.
Okay, you've seen the preliminary plat. This is the final plat to Eric Bradshaw and Dr. Eustace's place. This is a multi-phase development. This is phase 1. That's pretty much it.
So it went through planning, zoning, and they recommended come to us for approval.
Yes, has to, yeah, recommended approval.
Are there any questions about this?
Any changes from,
No changes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved, second and third. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Yes.
Consider the following. Item B, partial mortgage releases and waivers of right of repurchase Silverback Housing Development. Consider staff recommendation to approve partial release of mortgage documents and waivers of right-of-way of repurchase for lot number 15 and lot number 16 in Silverback Landing, located in Silverback Housing Development, as Arvest Bank, the primary lender for the project, took first position on the loan, with the city securing a second position on the P&L property until the loan is repaid in December 2023.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two more lots in the Silverback development being sold. This request is from Security First, who's handling the closing on these two lots. As you just mentioned, Mr. Mayor, as long as there's an outstanding loan with P&L Development, the city holds a second position on those lots, and as those lots are sold, we will come to you and ask for you to release that partial mortgage. And as you indicated, this would be for lots 15 and 16. And Commissioner Brooks, I know you were interested in the street address because we provided that in the past. Those street addresses are 1822 and 1824 Silverback Way.
Thank you.
So I would bring that to you for your consideration and would be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question.
Certainly.
Explain waiver of right of repurchase. The ones we did before, that wasn't listed, only mainly because maybe Labette Bank didn't request it, but Security First does. So is it unusual?
And Henry may be able to explain it a little better than I.
It, title companies are very thorough. When we, as the city transferred those lots to P&L Development, we had a clawback provision where if they didn't start the development within a certain time period, the city could purchase the real estate back at that same price. And so, I don't know why that wasn't requested from the other entity, but Security First, like I said, since they're a title company, things are probably just, every T is crossed and I dotted.
I had to look it up. I didn't, like I said, I hadn't seen it on these, so.
Right,
And I asked Blake
right.
about it. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Good catch.
Any further questions?
Move to approve.
Been moved, and is there a second to approve? Been moved and second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Blake.
Hey, one more note on that, if we can, real quick. It's been a long process, I know. The first person is scheduled to move into a completed house this week out there. So I know that's a big milestone. Planning them is one thing, building them is another, but occupying them is where we're trying to get, so.
Might be a little noisy for a
Maybe
while for them.
I'm not sure what their yard's gonna look like or anything else, but I think somebody's gonna be living there this weekend.
Good deal,
so.
good deal.
Anyway,
All right, item C, disaster recovery technical system. Consider staff recommendation to enter into an agreement with Coverage One for services totaling $32,563 to prepare and install equipment to establish a secure remote disaster recovery site and to approve payments of invoices totaling $196,554 for hardware, software, and maintenance for a period of 4 years.
Mayor and Commissioners, appreciate the time. We did talk about this briefly on a working day. As you, I don't know, I'm assuming you all have been paying attention to this, but there's an increasing amount of threats across the world in technical systems. But specifically, and probably more alarmingly, there's been a lot of attacks recently in utilities and infrastructure systems. And that's been particularly disturbing, of course, for us in the public sector. And one of the, it's really a question, it's really not a question of if we're going to get hit. We will get hit at some point. Somebody will make an attempt to do it. So we're really trying to make as much effort as we can to minimize the potential downfall of that. And one of the best things you can do is to set up a remote redundant site. And that's what this is for. All right. We've worked for a while now with our long-term network and security consultant on the design of this system, and we've gone back and forth on it. We've saved a considerable amount of money because we're repurposing some of the equipment that we replaced in our last network upgrade. This would have been a considerably more expensive proposition had we not been able to repurpose a lot of that equipment. We're comfortable that the coming federal funds are able to pay for this, right? And we're working out the final details of the site where we're going to have the remote site. But we need to have this in place so we can start scheduling it and getting our consultants lined up to do the work. Be glad to answer any questions. And I've got Jeff if there's a tough one. Right.
Federal funds.
Yes.
That's the kicker.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yes.
Go ahead,
I
Dawn.
was just saying, they're very proud of their contract.
They are,
Like,
yeah. they
there's
are.
lots of pages, lots.
Well, they're a security, a technical security firm, so yes, they do that.
So help me understand this, Jay. We're gonna use some of our equipment, and we gotta buy some.
That's correct.
Do we put that out for bid when we buy equipment, or how does that work?
Often we do. This particular contractor is on the state contract, the state purchasing contract, so we're guaranteed the lower cost. They've already gone through the bidding process for
Okay.
the state. That's a good question.
Well, even if this wasn't federal money, it's still something that has to be done, because you can't stand to have it be hacked and be in that position. You just cannot stand to let it happen. You have to take every protection you can.
Well, to be clear, we're hacked almost every day. There's
Or at least
attempts being made
attempted
every
to.
day. All right, so it happens. But we've got obviously systems in place. This is just another layer.
Yeah.
The way you do it is you layer your security on top, just to be as secure as possible.
I had another question. It says it takes maybe a month to get this, and I take it that our staff will help assist. Will we still have staff to do other IT? Or everybody to be dedicated to that project, or will they?
No. Jeff, we schedule all this stuff out
Right.
and balance everything. We've only got Jeff has
Sure,
has
I
three
don't
people.
know, you're
work for him.
busy, so I don't know how
It-
thin
it's-
you want to be, but.
It's a scheduling thing, and the consultant will do most of the heavy lifting. These guys have to know, though, what's
We've
going on.
always teamed up with them with a hand-over-hand sort of approach. They're gonna do the heavy haul, they're gonna do the main installation, but we're gonna be there with them, hand over hand, so that we know when they leave,
Sure.
it's our system, and we can handle it. It's just the way we maintain it. We usually stagger our people, and we try to time it at a downtime, not
Yeah,
right.
so all of you know how to operate it, so, yeah,
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
good, that's good. All right, I guess the next thing is, are we gonna do it? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Before we move to non-agenda reports and requests, I'm gonna open it back up. Oh, can you hold off? Open it back.
She was gonna introduce me, so.
Oh, okay, go ahead, go ahead.
We found a workaround.
Oh, all right,
Not agenda reports and questions,
all right, good deal.
so we can stay in order. Well, under non-agenda, I was just gonna talk about festivals really fast, and with that, I wanna update the public on 4th of July. We are having a festival this year. So we've got a lot of inquiries about, is it happening? Yes, it's happening. The 3rd, we will check in vendors. They should be ready to sell by 5 o'clock. We'll have activities starting on Saturday, the 3rd by 5 o'clock. And then we'll have 4th of July activities on Sunday, the 4th, as we normally would on the 4th. So excited to have that festival and get it going. Fireworks, weather permitting, will be at 10 o'clock on the 4th of July. And with that, I will introduce Little Balkans with a brief update on Balkans.
All right, thanks.
Hi, I'm Angela Meyer. I'm the president of the Little Balkans Festival Association. We have an exciting September, August and September coming. It is a week-long festival this year. The committee decided in light of the pandemic that it was a go big or go home approach. So we'll start August the 30th. The Little Balkans Quilt Guild is doing a quilting boot camp Monday night at Block 22. People can sign up online. It's a button event. They will get a take-home project where they will be started out and how to learn how to hand piece a quilt block and sent home with instructions on how to finish a quilt. Tuesday night, we're at the Miners Hall Museum in Franklin. They're unveiling their miners' home that's been created and developed. There'll be food trucks and some entertainment there. Wednesday night, we're back at Block 22. JT Canol's doing a presentation about all the local dance bands and dance halls that were in the area. It has some live music. It's a button event. So we really try to target the weekday activities as something in the evenings, educational, family-friendly. And then we get to Thursday, which kind of ramps up the we have something for everybody approach. We are doing for the first time a downtown walking tour. We're working on 2 different aspects to do that, either with live local volunteers that will be actors that were either Teddy Roosevelt to Papa Josiah may make an appearance where it's local color, local actors, or we're looking at something techier where there'll be an audio tour with a QR code at stops from either the Pritchett Pavilion to the Stillwell and back. We'll have some video presentations, hopefully. We're kind of making this one up and building it as we go along, but we've got some great volunteers in the area. We have amazing local history. And then we'll have the Bootlegger Bash at Pritchett Pavilion, where at some point in the future you may see a request. We did a wine tasting in 2019. Kevin Fry and Parrot Head were working with the ABC and Pittsburgh PD to build a spirit tasting. So it will be wine, beer, cocktails, live music. Mingarelli's table is going to provide Italian food that evening as well. So people will have the option to do one or both with staggered tours. So Thursday night we'll be hopping downtown. We're working with downtown businesses to see if they'll stay open late. That way really people can come out and enjoy downtown Pittsburgh. Friday is kind of the kickoff of what we've termed the normal festival events, or what the usual lineup is. We'll have Drag the Gut. We're working with them. So Friday night will be Drag the Gut, a car show at the mall, live music in the mall. I think the Senior King and Queen contest is a go. Thankfully, assuming COVID stays at bay and we can safely plan for that, that will happen as usual. Saturday will be all over town and in the park. We've got a shuttle lined up that will start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Friday night is also totally back up. We'll also include the check-in registration for the Gorilla Century ride. We've moved that to Block 22. We're working with food truck vendors and trying to make it more of a downtown block party Friday evening. There's roughly 1,500 riders that come into town with Roger Lomschek's years of work on that project. So we're trying to get them and encourage them to eat downtown, stay downtown, bring your lawn chairs out, watch the cool old cars go by, enjoy what our community has to offer. They take up a significant portion of hotel rooms that weekend, so we want to give their entire family something to do and stay all weekend long. So Saturday that happens, shuttle stop out to bring those riders to the park and to other events. And then Sunday we have some, let me back up. Saturday night, I forgot the best part. We booked Jim Croce's son, AJ Croce, to play live on Broadway. We're bringing a baby grand piano in from Kansas City, a Wurlitzer keyboard. He puts on a really entertaining show. He plays his own music. He plays his father's music. I've seen him personally in concert and we were really impressed. I've had a lot of local musicians say, "You booked him?" And he's so excited to come. They were super easy to work with, and J3 will open for them. So we have a local opening act. We'll have a shuttle that runs till 2:30 in the morning. Most of all of the local adult drinking establishments are on board, and they will have live music tied to Crawford County in all of their establishments that start at 10:30. So we called it the Crawford County Live Music Crawl because we do include Bardo's and the Dirty Mule north of Pittsburgh. Then Sunday, we have a family-friendly bike ride. Daryl Pulliam's putting that together. That's going to be in Pittsburgh. We're all going to start at Lakeside Park. This Humane Society and a certain auctioneer I know, which happens to be my dad, is going to sell SEK Humane Society doghouses that are put together by all the Lakeside students. So we'll have at least 17 doghouses and all kinds of items to live auction. The fishing derby will be at Lakeside Park. A chicken dinner and polka dance at the mall with Johnny Joe Ziebert, and then we close out Sunday night at the Band Dome with members only, the 80s cover band, and a beer garden. So if we haven't figured out a way to have something that week for somebody, I think Kim and I and the entire committee should probably quit. Because we've worked so hard as a committee. Parks and Rec is a huge help. It takes nothing. I text Kim and say, hey, can we? Sure, let me figure it out. Her and Toby both. So everybody pitches in. We have an amazing group that's growing every year. We've had more local businesses sponsor. We have brand new sponsors this year, more funding coming in to make it happen. And we're really trying to develop little things to big things. We have a cookbook that's coming out again, some swag we're going to offer for donation purposes to make new events happen every single year. So there's your festival update for Labor Day weekend. And if you have questions, let me know. There'll be a website update soon, so it's coming along.
What's the minimum age for that King and Queen contest?
You know, if you would like an entry form, I don't think you're old enough for that.
Yeah.
But the nursing homes that are putting that on, we're trying to figure out a plan A and a plan B. If we can't get people to the mall live, how we can do it virtually so their families can participate and keep that going. I think last year they were really sad to see it not happen.
Sure.
Yes.
But if you have questions, feel free to call Kim. I'm gonna volunteer her, or call my office. I'm happy to help and answer questions. But our Facebook page is up and going and providing all kinds of updates in real time, so watch Facebook if you don't already. And thanks for letting me.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Healthcare person here, is Dr. Stebbins, is Dr. Stebbins involved in?
So we actually have Penny Armstrong, who was one of the founding members of the festival, who is our mitigation person. She is our point of contact with the Crawford County Health Department. She's already had one sit down with them. They're in the loop. They're willing to evaluate what we're doing as it progresses. They have a very positive outlook on where we'll be in September, but we're already rolling out ways to find bottles of hand sanitizer for craft vendors and considering what kind of signage we need to put out so that we encourage the people that we're inviting to participate to sell their wares to be safe. We're encouraging the public to be safe. So it's been a mindful thought. Every meeting, there's a discussion of what else do we need? What should we do? And Penny's staying in really good contact with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks so much.
All right, thanks. Is there anything else on non-reports and requests?
Oh, just thanks for the attendance at the, Cheryl said, I've never seen the wastewater treatment plant, so we picked the hottest day of the year so far.
Sure.
And we went
Thanks.
out, but I appreciate y'all going. It was good. I think Matt and Chris Farinacci and Matt Bacon did a great job with the tour, and appreciate you guys being interested in it.
Oh, absolutely. There's a great bunch of guys that are dedicated, and we're very fortunate to have them out there maintaining a very important facility. Appreciate it.
All right, Blake, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to.
Anyway.
The job fair.
Yes, sir.
Have we had feedback from the companies that were involved? Did they hire people? Do they want another job fair? What have you heard?
We have, Michelle's here. I know we surveyed our exhibitors. I haven't had much of a chance to really peruse through that data. I don't know if there were any outstanding trends, Michelle. It seemed like on the surface that it was very well received by those who participated.
Yeah, we got feedback from 8 out of the 15 companies that participated. Very well received, loved the location. We may consider tweaking day, time of day, that kind of thing. A lot of them got FaceTime with a lot of great candidates and we're planning to interview. And I just told Blake that we probably want to do a follow-up in a few months to see who was actually hired. Not by me,
Right.
but just how many
Right.
people were hired.
Good deal, good deal.
And I know Kansas Works was so impressed with it, they have asked if we could maybe start doing it on a more regular basis.
I think
You know,
that'd be a good
once
idea.
Once a year, twice a year, something on a more regular basis.
And we are considering doing something again in the fall.
Good deal, good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You bet. Thanks, Michelle.
All right, is there anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved and
Second.
seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.